first. How's that? And then we'll tie it.
Okay.
Basically, it's a damselfly nymph imitation. Now, most guys, when they fish damsels, what do? They cast it out on an intermediate or a floating line, and they move that thing in. Generally with a figure of 8 retrieve, and yes, damsels do move. However, that said, they're not the quickest movers. A very effective way of fishing damsels is to actually fish them static. Like you do when you fish midges, where you cast them out on a floating line, let it sink slightly, and you just drift them. And the fish picks them up on the drift. Static fontaine, popular technique. Cast to a weed bed, let the wind drift it just out, poof, every time. Poof. So you could fish these in conjunction with a team of buzzers, a couple of mayfly nymphs. You can move them, but they move very, very slowly. They're not like dragonfly nymphs that actually move, doof, 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 that have jet propulsion. Damselflies are slow movers. But the one advantage is you generally always get them around. There'll always be damselfly nymphs somewhere. What you look for in a damselfly nymph pattern is you want a pattern that's sparse, triggers the eyes. So you want sparse eyes, legs, even though when they swim, they fold their legs. But when we're fishing it drifting like that, then their legs are out. And some species have long legs, like mega long, almost as long as the abdomen of the insect. So this is just a very basic pattern, nothing too complicated. Let's give it a bash. Charlie, okay. Okay, so what I do is I start off. Are we on record?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I start off by just putting a base of thread on this hook shank. I do this with everything I tie.
Standard shank, Gordon?
I would prefer a longer shank, but because I'm tying this for Mr. Factor, he gave me that. But a longer shank is great. But I mean, it'll work either way. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in a little bit of a marabou tail. Now what you want to do here is you want to keep things sparse. It's not a woody bugger you're tying, it's a damselfly. So go very thin on the tail, just a couple of fibers, light and sparse. With a pinch strap, we just tie that in, like that. See, just a couple of fibers, nothing too major. Come back with my thread midway, get a bit of copper wire. Where is my by donkey? Okay, right, so tie in the copper wire. Come back there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use some marabou for the body as well. What you got to do here is select marabou with long fibers. Because if you don't do this, what you're going to find is you're going to run out of material for the body. Also, not too many fibers, more than you used for the tail. Cut them off with the base. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tie these fibers in at the tips. Why do I do that? Can anyone tell me?
Taper.
Taper, yes. So that you get that classic carrot shape. Other thing I want to ask is, why did I make a bed of thread on this hook shank before tying? Anyone? Yes, otherwise things slip. So you have a base on which your materials can just hold on to. I do that for anything I tie, even deer hair patterns. Okay, so I just wind this around till about there, tie it in like that. Snip it off. Copper wire. Now the copper wire I'm going to wrap towards me at a slight angle, so I'm cross ribbing this fly. This is basically just there for durability, so that this thing doesn't come apart. And when I get here, just give it 2 wraps, hold it, break it off, tie that in there. Now I've got a strand of flash boo. Let's give the pattern a little bit of flash. Tie that in there. Okay, so you got a bit of flash. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a partridge feather or a partridge later. You could have put the eyes in if you wanted to, but like, you know, me being me, I just do it whenever I want to do it. I mean, I don't really care. Fish don't either, as long as it's got bloody eyes. Okay, so you've got a partridge hackle. What you want here is you want a feather with lacquer mark. There. You want a feather with nice marking, right? How long must those fibers be? Can anyone tell me? No, about just a little bit longer than the gape would be cool. Okay? So you see, I strip a couple of fibers off over here along the shank. Just clean that up for myself. So that's what I got going. I take my hackle plier, hold the tip of the feather like that, and then I'm going to stroke it back, these fibers, just very softly. Don't do it hard, you'll break the thing. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it in on top of the hook shank by the tips. Just like that. So what you'll get is you'll get that effect. Okay? Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dub a bit of a thorax. Now, everyone knows how to dub, I guess. But there are two things one could do here. If you dub anti-clockwise, like I'm doing now, you'll get a tighter dubbed effect. Because, let me just be careful there. Okay. You'll get a tighter dubbed effect. If you dub it clockwise, what actually happens is when you're winding it, the dubbing unravels slightly. So you get a looser dubbed effect. Which, either or, I tend to go tight. Because what you'll find is trout will loosen it out for you when they eat this thing. When they, yeah, no, these things eat this. Okay. So you gooi it like this. Okay, so now you've got the thorax on there. Now the next step is to take this feather stem, pull it over gently. Just massage those fibers. Make sure that you got more or less the same amount of fibers on either side. It doesn't need to be exact. Contrary to popular belief, fish can't really count. I once had a guy inform me that a mayfly nymph has 7 abdominal segments and I'd tied 8.
What did you say?
I told him to go speak to the trout because I didn't think they gave a shit. Okay, so there we go. So you get that. Hot sticks, eh? Now it looks even hotter when we take the flash boo and check us out. Hold those fibers down, put the flash boo over it, and just tie it in. 1 or 2 wraps. So you got that. Yeah, any questions?
Where's the eyes?
Okay, now I'm going to tie in the eyes. Now back in the day when I started fly tying, we didn't have all these little beads and stuff that you buy nowadays. We had to physically go and melt nylon. However, that said, it wasn't all bad. The advantage with actually, and I still melt it, the advantage with melting nylon is you can get a better shape of eye. You can also get them smaller. Because I know the eyes are a trigger, but a lot of guys go a little bit overboard with the eyes. They tie them too big. So all you do is, you take a little piece of, do you have a lighter, Charlie? I'll quickly demonstrate this while I'm here. Ah, buy a donkey, man. Who said smoking was a bad thing? Okay. So all I'm going to do is, this is quite basic, but you take a little length of Mona like that, in a hackle plier, and you just, am I there?
Yeah.
Burn it on that side, burn it on that side. Now, if those eyes aren't equal, or if you want eyes bigger, there's a trick you can do here. You can burn some more Mono, like that, and you can literally add Mono. And then melt, and you can add it until you get the shape you want to get. Okay? So here I've got a ready-made pair of eyes. All I do is I just pop them on top of the hook shank and I figure of 8 them in. Now you'll notice because of the hackle plier, that Mona is nice and flat, so it ties in quite easy. Okay, now when most people dub eyes for damselfly nymphs, what they tend to do is they just do a figure of 8. But I did slightly differently. This is how I do it. Okay, so we dub that. Dub around each individual eye, as opposed to doing a figure of 8. The reason, can anyone tell me why I do this? Because I can, but why else? Check at that. You see, you get a flatter head. Look at the shape of the head. It's not this big ball. You get a flatter, more natural head. And when you're tying dragons, same story, guys. Okay, then we take this last little bit of flash over.
Because it's flat, it looks
Ties in, yeah. Nee, I like koi. Now what you can do here is, it's actually cool if you, it's a bit long there, but I'll just cut this off slightly. If I half hitch this here, just to help me out. Okay, now I can let this hang and leave it because I'm cool. I'm just going to cut this off like that. Whip finish it. Oh, gonas, weet jy? Die fucking ding. Couple of half hitches, never killed anyone. Then, okay, and there you've basically got quite a nice little damselfly pattern. Okay, let's just recap. What are we going for here? It's got to be slim, right? Hy moenie dik wees nie. You want taper, you want legs. Check how they tie it there. That will also give it a nice profile. If a fish was looking from underneath up, they check his legs. Poof. You've got the eyes and you've got the flash. Especially when, I've only experienced this twice in my life, but if you get caught in a damselfly nymph migration, it's one of the best things on earth, where thousands of these things decide to all hatch at the same time. And they basically swim just under the surface, and they swim to sort of bankside vegetation, reeds or whatever. And what you'll find is you'll fish on a floating line, like long, 18-foot leader, fine, slow figure of 8. You'll see the boil, you'll feel the fish, so you'll see him before you feel him. And you just knock them the whole afternoon. But it's not an occurrence which happens too often. If you have it once in your lifetime, you did well. Yes?
I found that when I fish damsels, it's usually in the mornings that I catch fish and damsels. Is
Yeah.
that a general thing?
Well, it's quite normal. They tend to move when there's heat around. It's like you and I. As jy nou koud is, waar gaan jy gewees? In die bed, nee. Nou dis kwaai daar in die bed. Maar as dit warm is, nie 'n fokkie bed, jy gat ek. And they are exactly the same. Any questions? Enige vrae?
Yeah, nice.
Lekker.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks. Okay, I'll give you guys hooks now. Just wanna...
Pressing the wrong one, Charlie.
Come on. Can't see from that.